Hello and welcome to FPSKivotos. I'm your host Bridge, and let's get started. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about Minori's AKM. As always, we're going to talk about the similarities and differences, and since she's a support character, we're not going to talk about her battle animation since she doesn't use her gun at all for the most part. But moving straight into it, this is Minori's AKM, or in my case, the Century Arms FPSKa Redwood Edition. This turned out fantastic. It's probably one of my favorite rifles that I've painted. It turned out really good. And we're just going to get straight into it with the similarities. First, we're going to start from the back and move all the way up to the front here. So, as you can see on the stock, it is the nice midnight blue color that kind of matches her scheme. She has like a midnight blue, gray, and red color scheme, obviously with a little bit of yellow too. I think that color scheme as a whole is really cool, and it's nice that she doesn't really go super far into customizing the AK that much. It's just the bog standard AK. As always, instead of actually painting the stock, I actually used Scotch tape. Essentially what I did is I put Scotch tape down on my table, painted it the right color, cut it down to size, and put it on the stock. And honestly, it's probably one of my favorite ways of doing it because it's pretty clean for the most part, and I can actually make it straight because it's kind of difficult to tape things off, and sometimes when you take that tape off, you can peel off the paint, yada, yada, yada. I think it turned out really good. It's not super aligned. There's some mishaps on the top and the bottom, but for the most part, no one's really looking from like this angle here or especially this angle. So, you know, from the side view, I think it looks pretty good. Right here is a little piece of black tape to indicate. I'm not entirely sure. It's just a detail that's on her stock. Moving forward, as you can see here, we have the trigger guard and then the receiver as a whole. We got a piece of Scotch tape right there, and another piece of yellow Scotch tape right here. I think the spread of the blue paint is probably one of my favorite details of her gun. She didn't really go super overboard with it, or well, I guess the designers didn't really go super overboard with it. And it's just in the, you know, really nice places for it to contrast well with the main color, obviously the gray color. So as you can see, we have the trigger guard, the trigger, the mag release, the safety selector, the bolt carrier, rear sight, as well as the front of the gun. All of that is the midnight blue color, and I think it just contrasts really, really well. As you can see in the picture of her gun, the receiver is a more lighter color, so it's actually similar to the magazine. So I did paint this magazine. I think it's a slate gray, I'm not entirely sure. It's one of my lighter gray colors that I own. I didn't want to really paint the receiver that much because I could have, but it would have put a little bit more work. And I think for the most part, it matches fairly well. Like, you can tell the difference between the two colors, right? But at the end of the day, I think it looks pretty good regardless of that. Well, moving on, like I said, in the magazine, it is this gray color. This is the magazine that came with the gun. I didn't want to paint in my Magpul mags because the Magpul mags are nice. So this mag isn't the greatest in the world, so I decided to paint this one instead. I did forget to mention the grip. The grip isn't exactly the same as hers, but I do really like the style that they use for the FPSKa. So it's very nice and sturdy grip. I don't really like the traditional AK one. It's just way too thin, and I prefer this one a lot more. One of the weird details about this AK is, you know, Century Arms is not the most reliable company out there in the world, but they do kind of interesting detail with the safety selector. They basically cut out a little notch right here. Don't know how easy. Yeah, you can see that little notch right there. Essentially what you can do is that when you rack it, you can use it as like a bolt catch sort of deal. Switch it back to fire, it will, you know, bring it forward. It's neat. I mean, I don't really use it that much. You probably saw it in a little bit of firing footage, but yeah, that's a neat detail. It's not something that you really use all that often. Moving forward, as you can see, we have the red handguard. This turned out really good. I originally was going to keep it its standard redwood color. I'll pull up a picture of what the AK looked like originally, but I decided that at the end of the day, I should probably just paint them because it's just a brighter red color, and I think it just looks better. It's more cartoony, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and it fits the bill pretty well. As you can see on the other side, it is a little scratched because putting it down on the concrete, you know, table thing at the shooting range does that, but I'm not that worried about it because I shoot these guns. They're supposed to have wear and tear on them, so it's not that big of a deal. And as I mentioned earlier, Moving up, we have basically the entire front section is the midnight blue color, and I think it turned out really nice. One of the cool things about AKs, in my opinion, is just, they're actually semi-friendly to left-handed shooters. I can really easily, it's essentially an ambidextrous not charging handle, mag release, with just being a paddle mag release. It's really easy access to the charging handle. I don't have to do the whole, it's not that bad to do it like this, or you can do it like that. I don't have to do that type of thing. I can just do it from this side, and it's pretty simple. I do want to get decent, with AKs. Be able to use them to just have fun with, because they're really neat guns. Ammo is kind of expensive, but it is what it is for any gun. Ammo is semi-expensive unless it's 22, but whatever. But overall, I think this turned out fantastic. I don't know what the left side of the gun looks like, generally speaking, for hers, so I don't know if there's any other stickers and anything like that, so I decided to keep it kind of just its basic color or basic design there. The only difference that I can really think of is obviously the AK pattern. This is not an AKM. This is whatever the fuck Century Arms decided this is. I don't know much about AK, variations that much. I just know there are a bunch of different ones, and there's some people out there that are really, really into knowing and actually categorizing them the right way. Most people on the internet know the AK as the AK-47, and they call every single one of them like that. But I know for a fact, at least on the wiki, this is, well, not this one, but Minori's gun in particular is considered the AKM. But the only difference that I can really think of other than that is she has like a weird gash, like a much larger, I guess these are like heat vents right here, and I'm like, I'm not gonna cut into the wood of my gun. I don't really think that's probably a good idea. Decided to have some creative liberties with that one there. But no, with the support characters, there's not really much that we can really talk about, because like I mentioned, they don't really have battle animations other than just kind of popping up on the screen, especially if they don't use the gun, right? So that's basically it for this video, for the most part. But with all that out of the way, let's move on to the conclusion. If you guys have been enjoying this episode so far, please make sure to reject Red Winter and do whatever the hell Minori's crew does on the day-to-day basis. And make sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe button, hit the notification bell to know when to upload every single time. And that does it for this episode. For the most part, honestly, was a really, really fun project for me to do. I really, really enjoyed shooting this. I really enjoyed making it. It actually only took me a day. Like, I bought it, and I bought it, brought it home, and then the day after, when I had my day off, I did the entire thing in one day. I basically got everything separated and everything, and I just started painting. That's it. And that's generally how these go if I know exactly what I need, unless I need very specific parts. This is literally just the AK. Like, there's no extra added on bits, no sight rails, no foregrips, nothing like that. It's just the AK, and it was the easiest. It's probably the easiest one I've ever had to paint. I just had to figure out how to A, take it apart, and B, separate everything to get the colors as perfect as it can. And I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. It's probably one of my favorite rifles I've done. I've done a few. But yeah, definitely up there as one of my favorite ones I've done. And like I said, it shoots really well. It's AKs. AKs are fun, and I would really like to learn how to really use them and train with them. I'd like to get more for other projects. My initial thought was actually I was going to use this AK for this project and then use it for a different project. But I decided that, and from a buddy of mine, these AKs do have a tendency of eventually blowing up, potentially. I'm not entirely sure. They don't have the best record, the Century Arms ones, so I think I'm going to hold off on switching this over because I want to actually use an AK pretty prolifically, perfectly, whatever, and get, to master it, essentially. I think it'd just be fun to, do that and just have that skill set, especially, with my ARs and stuff like that. And stay tuned for whoever those, other AKs are going to be for, obviously, because, this is the only one for Blue Archive. One of the really interesting things about Blue Archive, they use a lot of, obscure firearms, which sucks ass for me, but it took a really long time for us to get something like the AKM and stuff like that. It's very interesting that the more known guns are few and far between. At least it takes a while for them to show up. And then the really obscure guns can see the limelight, and I think that's really cool. It makes it difficult for me to recreate them, but for the most part, I think it's really neat. But yeah, if you guys reached to the end here, thank you so very much for 1,700 subscribers. That is fucking awesome. I really, 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 really am grateful for each and every single one of you that watch my videos or follow me on Twitter or, you know, even subscribe to the Patreon. Thank you to Mika for, you know, being one of my first Patreon members. It really means a lot. I want to upload there more often to get behind the scenes. There was behind the scenes stuff about this gun. You guys got early access. For higher tiers, you can even pop up in the credits at the end. You can even get basically the decals and stuff, like the designs I do, depending on if there's actually decals. Actually, I'm not going to send you guys, you know, Scotch tape, the paint. You guys can just do that on your own if you want to recreate them yourselves. But, you know, I've got incentives over there. I want to upload there more to give more incentive to people to help me out. You know, anything helps at the end of the day. Just watching is more than enough for me. I'm just really happy that people do come out, you know, go out of their way to watch the content that I make, and it really, really warms my heart. But with all that out of the way, I've been your host, Bridge, and I'll see you guys in the next one.